Buckingham Palace, official London residence of Britain's sovereign since 1837, is probably one of the world's most famous addresses, with an exterior that's familiar to all, yet an interior that's wrapped in mystery. Its quadrangle and grand entrance is the ceremonial centrepiece for the nation's welcome, be it to kings, queens, presidents or diplomats. And it also provides the same welcome when, for a select number of days a year, the doors of the grand entrance are open to recipients and their guests to receive their honour at the investiture ceremony. Nowadays, tens of thousands of people see the state rooms and gardens, either as guests to one of the series of summer garden parties or as visitors to the summer opening every August and September. But very few get this special invitation. A short walk from Buckingham Palace across Green Park at St James's Palace is the central chancery of the Orders of Knighthood. It's part of the Lord Chamberlain's office and is responsible for governing the Orders of Chivalry and maintaining the records of all appointments, promotions and deaths within the order. They also take the lead in organising investitures and the sending out of invitations, together with warrants signed by the Queen.
Good morning, Rachel. I'm here to discuss investiture M. Number of recipients. We were 92.
We've lost 2.
Wheelchair recipients. How many have we got on this occasion?
Just the one. We've also got Mrs Jackson, whose mother will be in a motorised scooter.
And the footmen have been warned, have they?
Yes, they
Okay, good. We can just now confirm finally the stool plan. In for 1 knighthood, out for 2 dames, and then back in for the 2 knights bachelor.
That's right. Yes.
Okay, Rachel. Well, thank you very much. I think that concludes our check for the investiture.
Following the compilation of the New Year and the Queen's birthday honours lists, the details of the awards are first checked against records held by the Central Chancery before being sent for publication in the London Gazette. When the various insignia arrive from the manufacturers, each decoration is very carefully scrutinised for blemishes and then stored in the Central Chancery's vaults to await its recipient. At 8 o'clock in the morning, London is already alive to another working day, and for the select 100 men and women who are anxiously making their way to the capital, it's the culmination of many weeks of preparation. It's the day of their investiture at Buckingham Palace. Preparations at the palace are well underway. Everything in the state rooms, including the ballroom, scene of many state and official occasions, and where today's investiture will take place, are given detailed and careful attention. As the gates of Buckingham Palace are open to the recipients and their guests, up in the ballroom, final checks are being made by the Secretary of the Central Chancery of the Orders of Knighthood, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Vernon. A select number of investitures are held at Buckingham Palace each year, spread over dates covering all the seasons, when recipients and their guests are treated to a sumptuous display of art and indeed history as they carefully make their way through this imperial palace. For most of those receiving an honour, this is probably the first and only time in their lives they will be received by the Prince of Wales in the ballroom at Buckingham Palace. The honours system and the concept of the investiture as we know it today is relatively new, given that the history of the monarchy spans over 1,000 years. Honours for chivalry have been around for centuries, but it was largely due to the Queen's grandfather, George V, who in 1917 established the Order of the British Empire so that honours could be more widely given to deserving citizens from all walks of life, men and women, for their contribution to the war effort. With the ending of the First World War and the armistice in 1918, the King extended the range of recipients to include those from the world of science, the arts and literature, as well as the voluntary and charitable sectors. The investiture is a very special occasion, and each recipient will take away an impression of magnificent sights and sounds that will be long remembered and talked about. Part of that occasion is given by the Yeomen of the Guard arriving here from their headquarters at St James's Palace. Created by Henry VII in 1485 after his victory at the Battle of Bosworth Field, they're not only the oldest of the royal bodyguards, having given long and faithful service to the sovereign for over 500 years, but they're also the oldest military corps in the United Kingdom and probably the world. There is no doubt that investitures are stage-managed with military precision. Each recipient must be in the right place at the right time, be briefed as to what to expect when reaching the dais and what to do once the honour has been presented. The timing is well rehearsed and must be accurate for it all to begin at 11 o'clock. The Green Drawing Room, the first of the state rooms at the top of the grand staircase, is richly furnished and includes chairs made in the 1820s for Windsor Castle. It has a grand piano purchased by George IV in 1820, originally destined for the music room gallery at Brighton Pavilion. It's just one of the many staterooms frequently used for receptions. But today, while the room is readied and the props are set, there's time for new knights to get acquainted.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you to stand with your backs to the mirrored doors, please?
Their briefing is carried out by the Secretary of the Orders of Knighthood.
The investiture today takes place in the ballroom, and we'll get you there in one group through various staterooms to a corridor alongside the ballroom. I think the best thing I can do is to walk myself through the procedures that you'll be going through. So I'll start by standing in this doorway here, which replicates the doorway you'll find yourself standing in at about 11 o'clock. Charlotte sets you off. You move forward to Laurie. Pause, surname, forward, turn, neck bow or curtsy, and you move forward to the dais. Now for three of you, the stool will be here. And the routine with the stool is you put your left foot on the left-hand side, grasp the handle, nice gentle kneeling motion, head up, and the Prince of Wales will touch his sword first on your right shoulder, then your left shoulder. You then stand up. There's no arise to here or anything. Nothing will be said, and stand alongside the stool. And then you'll receive the silk will be placed over your shoulders with the medallion on. And for the rest of you, this stool is simply not here. So you just come forward, edge of the dais, receive your award, conversation, handshake, reverse, neck bow, curtsy, turn to your right, and out those doors.
George IV's original palace lacked a large room for state and official entertaining, but Queen Victoria rectified that shortcoming by adding the ballroom in the mid-1850s, first used in 1856 for a grand ball to celebrate the ending of the Crimean War. These days, it's one of the rooms used for the annual diplomatic reception, attended by 1,500 guests, ambassadors, diplomats and their wives, accredited to the Court of St. James. It's also the setting for state banquets, concerts and performances of the arts. Way back in 1856, it had the distinction of being the largest room in London, but today it's just the largest room in Buckingham Palace. At 122 feet long, 60 feet wide and 45 feet high, the ballroom could, with clever stacking, accommodate 56 double-decker London buses.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Commodore Chris Palmer. I'm a gentleman usher to the Queen and one of the 4 gentlemen ushers on duty who've been showing you to the seats, which you may or may not like. There's no autonomy, I'm afraid. You'll probably have read in the blue booklet what goes on during the investiture, but I thought it might be of interest if I was to describe it again now that you're in the State Ballroom. About 27 investitures are held each year, and on some occasions the Queen is represented by the Prince of Wales, Duke of Cambridge or the Princess Royal, and today it is the Prince of Wales. Investitures in London are always held in this ballroom, which is used on all state occasions, including state banquets. Shortly after I have finished speaking, 5 yeomen of the Queen's bodyguard of the Yeomen of the Guard will enter the ballroom at the rear and take up their position on the dais. The Yeomen of the Guard are the oldest royal bodyguard in the world, having been instituted in 1485 in the reign of King Henry VII, over 525 years ago. At 11 o'clock, the Prince of Wales and his party will enter the ballroom by the door on my left. They'll be escorted by 2 Gurkha orderly officers, a custom instituted by Queen Victoria in 1876. Please stand when His Royal Highness enters the ballroom. A string orchestra found from the Countess of Wessex's string orchestra under the direction of Captain David Hammond, Corps of Army Music, will play the National Anthem. Please remain standing until His Royal Highness bids you be seated. The investiture then begins. Earl Peel, the Lord Chamberlain, announces the name of each recipient who will enter through the door on my right. After being invested, recipients will leave through the door on my left and then re-enter the ballroom at the rear to take up their seats. At the end of the ceremony, the Lord Chamberlain will come forward into the centre and stand in front of His Royal Highness. This is the signal for everyone to stand while the orchestra plays the National Anthem. After His Royal Highness is withdrawn down the centre aisle, would you please leave by the door through which you entered at the back of the ballroom. Your friends and relations who have been decorated will meet you at the back as you leave. Today there are 79 ladies and gentlemen for investiture, and the ceremony will take about an hour. Thank you very much.
Before the ballroom became the centre for state entertaining, Queen Victoria used the picture gallery for large banquets. It's 155 feet long, the length of 2 tennis courts, and was designed by John Nash, as were many of the state rooms, for George IV to display his outstanding collection of Dutch and Flemish pictures, many of which still hang here. When completed by Nash in the late 1820s, it lacked good light and therefore was not a great success as a gallery built to display fine works of art. And it wasn't until 1914, under Queen Mary's guidance, that it was remodelled to include natural daylight and top lighting, which is how we see it today. There are pictures here that were collected by Charles I, Frederick Prince of Wales, eldest son of George II, by George III, George IV and Queen Victoria.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you to come forward? It's my job to explain what's going on for the next couple of hours. Investiture today takes place in the ballroom, and we'll get you there in groups from this room through various staterooms to the ballroom, which is some distance behind me. in fact, probably up halfway to Victoria Station. Eventually, you'll find yourself at a head of a queue looking into the ballroom, where you receive your awards today from the Prince of Wales. Starts at 11 o'clock, estimating finishing about 12 o'clock. I think the best thing I can do is to walk through the procedure that you'll be going through, and I'll start that from that doorway just there. But I'll just say at this moment, absolutely no initiative is required. We'll get you to the right place, at the right time, in the right order. Okay, so you're standing in this doorway, and to your right, there's some 250 of your guests looking in that direction. Above them, there's an army string orchestra who'll be playing continuous music throughout the investiture today. Where the majority of you are standing, there's a low dais, 20 feet wide, 8 feet deep, about 6 inches high. Centred on there will be the Prince of Wales. Around him will be members of his staff. At a lectern, there'll be the Lord Chamberlain, head of the Queen's household, who'll be making announcements over a public address system as to who you are, why you're here, and what award you're due to receive. And then, on pointing set of doors over there, is another set of doors which marks the exit route. So, that's the scene set. There are 3 people who are key. Standing to your left, and clearly not here at the moment, is Charlotte Martin from the Lord Chamberlain's office. And she, I promise you, for the last time, will be ticking off your name to ensure the right person goes forward to receive the right award. Standing in front of you, and some greater distance than he's standing at the moment, is Commodore Laurie Hopkins, a gentleman usher to the Queen. And he is your last safe port of call. When you move on from him, and I'll show you what happens in a minute, then a little bit of free thinking is required. And then marking your exit route is Major Grant Baker, another gentleman usher to the Queen. So what happens? Charlotte sets you off, you go forward, as I say, much greater distance I'm going now, and you stop in front of Laurie. Your shoulder to his chest. And you're now waiting to hear your surname. Words about you before, words about you afterwards, but your key is your surname. If you miss your surname, he'll give you a gentle reminder. You then move forward, and to the centre on the dais, turn and face the Prince of Wales. The next action for the gentleman is a neck bow. Chin on chest. No need to bend at the waist, just chin on chest. And for the ladies, much better than I can do, a curtsy. You move forward to the dais. Can't miss it, marked with a gold fringe. Can I ask you not to climb on the dais, just remain on the floor? And the Prince of Wales will be, have your insignia, which he'll then pin onto the pins on your chest. And a conversation will take place. Two-way conversation between you and the Prince of Wales. It comes to an end when he offers you his hand. Take it, shake it, let go, reverse 2 or 3 paces. The gentleman, a neck bow, ladies, a curtsy, turn to your right, passing in front of Grant, and you head out the doors there. Once you've gone out the doors, members of staff will take the insignia off you. Doesn't last very long. Box it up, give it back to you, and then you'll be ushered into the rear of the ballroom to witness the remainder of the proceedings. I can't boil it down any more than that. How do we address the Prince of Wales? Your Royal Highness, and thereafterwards, sir. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Slow. March.
The scene is set, the briefings are over, and the investiture is about to begin. It's 11 o'clock. On view throughout the palace is a treasure trove of art that establishes the royal collection as one of the major collections in the world today. There is a feast of fine paintings by such great European masters as Rubens, Vermeer, Rembrandt, Van Dyck, Poussin, Zuccarelli and Canaletto. There can be few waiting rooms in the world which offer their visitors such a wonderful display of original art as these staterooms give today's recipients and their guests. Honours and awards are not given lightly. They've been justly earned, and the investiture ceremony is the country's acknowledgement of that particular achievement. Many countries in the world today have honours and awards of one sort or another, but nowhere is the bestowing of titles and decorations performed in such splendid surroundings and with such grace, style and ceremony.
Mr. Mushtaq Lasharie for political service and to charity in Pakistan.
I think one of the most important aspects of an investiture is to be able to reward in a suitable way the selfless service and dedication of so many of these remarkable people. People who've dedicated their lives in all sorts of sort of unseen areas. I'm aware, only too aware, that for the vast majority of people who come to investiture, it is a very important moment in their lives when they've been given an honour and a reward and a thank you for all the marvellous things they've done. The great thing, I believe anyway, is to try and have a word with each one, try to make them feel special and ask them what they're doing a little bit and congratulate them. I find it enormously encouraging and in many ways moving. You see suddenly before you, the entire nation really, represented by different people from endless different walks of life. And you hear so much gloom and misery and criticism and disaster all the time in the media. But actually, there are so many marvellous people who keep this whole nation going and functioning. And it just is a remarkable example of what wonderful things are done in this country by so many people.
Each investiture lasts a little over an hour and brings together not only those whose achievements may not have been brought to our attention by the media, but also those who have not sought publicity but brought to the fore by the investiture ceremony. As today's investiture comes to an end, there can be little doubt that the day will have given lasting pride and pleasure to all.
Wonderful occasion. So unexpected, and that makes it better.
Wonderful, wonderful. He held us in conversation quite a while, and yes, very, very, very good. Very good. Yes.
A bit unreal, actually. Sort of as if they were calling somebody else. You know, it was like, is that me? You know, even though they gently sort of push you forward. It was quite unreal, but you know, quite exciting, and thinking, yes, it's actually happening.
He's very well informed. So he does a very, very good job, also helping you relax, but also marking the moment. He made it extra special.
Oh, it's so smoothly organised, so efficient, and yet so friendly. You know, everybody is so helpful, so pleasant. Very good.
Wonderful, wonderful man, very gracious, and he came across as really genuinely interested in what you had to say, and he made you feel like you were the only individual human being alive and getting this award at that time. So for us, especially those of us from Wales, it was a great honour.
Oh, it's a tremendous privilege, and it's one of the most rewarding days of my life that I will never forget.